1 Corinthians 15. We're just going to have fun tonight. I don't really have a cross. I don't really have a title for this. We'll just call it Cross References for End Times. 1 Corinthians 15. So the question is, do the millennial saints, do the tribulation saints, do the Old Testament saints get a new body for the millennium or for eternity? How do they get a body? They're dead. Think about it. The Old Testament saints have had a body that's sitting in the ground for 6,000 years. There will be 6,000. How's that thing coming up? Oh boy. Okay, let's find it. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 35. Now we're going to have Paul give us the answer, so get prepared. You got to be thick-skinned to hear him. 1 Corinthians 15:35. But some will say, how are the dead raised up, and with what body do they come? Exactly what we ask. Thou fool. Thou that which thou sowest is not quickened except it die. He says, you know this from farming. You plant a seed in the ground, that seed dies when it goes in the ground. It doesn't look like what you put in the ground, and it doesn't look like what happened to it while it was in the ground. Something different happens. 37. And that which thou sowest, thou sowest not that body that shall be, but bear grain. It may chance of wheat or some other grain. So depending on what seed you planted is what plant is going to come up. 38. But God giveth it a body as it pleaseth him, and to every seed his own body. That is, you plant a corn seed, it looks very different than planting an apple seed. Those are two different things that come up, a different body. Now he's going to say there's different types of bodies. There's a body of a fish, and there's a body of human flesh. And then he's going to give us even further, verse 39. All flesh is not the same, but there's one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beast, another of fishes, another of birds. There are also celestial bodies. Celestial, that means heavenly. And terrestrial, that means earthly. The territory, the turf, terrestrial. But the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. So they differ in glory and in how they, not how they're glorified, but maybe how they're glorified, but they differ in what makes them glorious. So there's two different types of bodies that could come up. So let's think about our question. What body would a tribulation, somebody who died in the tribulation or was beheaded in the tribulation, what kind of body are they going to get when they come up? It's got to be terrestrial because they don't need to fly into outer space. They'll be on this globe. So it's a terrestrial body that they'll have. For us, we don't get a terrestrial body. When we leave, we get a celestial body. You know that from how we leave. We go to outer space. So we need something that can traverse the atmospheres and get from here to there with a thought. Pretty good. Luke chapter 20. Luke 20, verse 35. He says, Luke 20, verse 35. But they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. Now, what did he say? What's the world he's referring to? Yeah, this planet. Millennium, or is he talking about eternity? Resurrection, what? Eternity. From the dead. He didn't say resurrection of the dead. From the dead, we'll get the distinction on it later. Resurrection from the dead means us, means anybody who comes back to live. Now here it's probably more than likely a reference to the millennium. He says 36. Neither can they die anymore. Wait a minute. Does that fit in the millennium? Can they die in the millennium? Yeah, they can die in the millennium. Yes. There'll be a lot of dying in the millennium. For they are equal unto the angels. Is everybody that comes up in the millennium equal to angels? And are the children of God being children of the resurrection? This is tough stuff already. Now, neither can they die anymore. That puts a monkey wrench in the whole system, doesn't it? You'd say it's millennium, but you can die in the millennium. I think all of this hinges on one thing, verse 35. But they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world. So somebody's already been judged worthy. Okay, how are you judged worthy? You did something. And so you're rewarded with one of the rewards here is they don't have to die and they're like angels. So that must be something special. There's two kinds of resurrection. There's resurrection of the dead and there's resurrection from the dead. That sounds like minor things, but it's very important. If you don't see those phrases in your Bible, you won't understand much doctrine that the Bible has to say. Of the dead means the great white throne judgment. He pulls up the dead, small and great, and makes them stand. That's of the dead. From, what does from mean? Means you were somewhere and now you're heading somewhere else. Something different. Something's changed. Okay, that's us. When we go in the ground, we don't stay that way or stay there. We're coming from the ground and we're going up where? Heaven. And we're going to change. Of the dead and for the dead. Look at it in John 11. This of the dead has always been known by the Jews and Old Testament people. It's referred to commonly as the general resurrection. John 1 or John 11 verse 24. Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. That resurrection at the last day is the great white throne judgment. And so she's saying there, I know when the dead, small and great show up, then he'll be there. And that's not what Jesus is talking about. He said, no, I'm talking about a different resurrection. I am the resurrection. Resurrection from the dead. Now, this is a good one. Resurrection from the dead is subdivided into three parts. Remember, Paul started talking to us about a seed that went in the ground. He talked about farming. So that analogy continues to run through. If you're going to plant a field, you know what you get? You get the first thing that pops up. There's always an early bloomer. Then you get the harvest. You get the mass that comes through. And then you get a few stubborn ones that come up at the very end. So you've got first fruits, a Bible word, harvest, and gleanings. So you got three types, and it's three that's going to fit with the resurrection. 1 Corinthians 15, look at verse 20. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 20. 1 Corinthians 15, 20. But now is Christ risen, our phrase, from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept. Okay, there it is, first fruits. He's already told you we're talking about a harvest here. We're talking about planting and farming. That seed you're going to plant in the ground. The example is Christ. He was the first fruit. Okay, look at Matthew 27. See some more of these first fruits. It didn't say first fruit singular. Become the first fruits plural. So somebody else had to come up when he came up. Matthew 27:52. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Okay, there's fruits. Now we've got plural. So there's the early bloomers. Okay, there's another part of this planting program. 1 Corinthians 15, look at verse 23. We've seen the first fruits. Now we'd see the harvest. 1 Corinthians 15, 23. But every man in his own order. Christ, the first fruits. Afterward, they that are his at his coming. That's us. That are Christ at his coming. There's the one I'm looking for. That's us getting out of here. And that's going to be the first fruits, harvest. We'll see gleanings, and it's all the same event, but it comes in stages. Look at it in 1 Thessalonians 4. 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 14. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. There's somebody coming back with him. You probably know some Christians. I don't know how you young people might not, but the longer you live, the more Christians you know that have gone on. They're coming back. They're going to join the party. It's going to be a big party. 1 Thessalonians 4, look at verse 16. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. So the dead have to be in Christ, of course, to go, but they're going up, and that's part of that at his coming. Okay, that's the rapture, and that's the harvest, according to what the analogy has been given. The last little section of that group is gleanings. Okay, Revelation 20, verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which did not worship the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again till the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. So, when do those boys come up? No, you got it. It's got to be at the beginning, because they rule and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. This is one you don't find people talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Right there.
So what you got? You've got a resurrection when Jesus Christ comes back to get us. Obviously, there's going to be another resurrection, second advent, to bring back the ones that were beheaded so they can rule and reign. There's going to be another one at the great white throne judgment to bring up everything to be judged. So there's three of them. Look at John 5. John 5, verse 29. Now some people read this differently. I just read it based on the words that are on the page. John 5:29. And shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. Now some people will split that up as two resurrections. And I guess you could, because there are two of them, and that's true. But I believe it's all in the same verse, and he didn't distinguish a difference between the resurrections. There is a resurrection that has both good and evil folks present. That's the great white throne judgment. So that could be what that's talking about. He said, we'll see that in some dispensations, there's names that get blotted out. They were in, and they get taken out. That's think about it. In the tribulation, there's no eternal security, because you could change that on a whim. Run down there and get you a mark. In the millennium, there's no eternal security. This is an odd one. Put a pin in it. We'll come back to it. There's exceptions. In the millennium, there's no eternal security, because you could do wrong, go before the judgment in Matthew chapter 5, and be cast into hell. Alive, yeah. Well, you won't be alive after you get there. So there's no eternal security there. Ours is the one that has eternal security. So every other age could have that name blotted out. Look at Exodus 32. Exodus 32:32. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, whatever that smiley face is, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written. And the Lord said unto Moses, whosoever sinneth against me, him will I blot out of my book. God himself said I'd do some blotting out. Moses knew about it. Moses was appealing to God, saying, let me take their place. Now, I don't think I'll ever get that spiritual. Paul does the same thing. I could wish myself accursed for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. Not me. I won't trade places with anybody about getting to heaven. That's right. Psalm 69, verse 28. He says, let them be blotted out of the book of the living and not be written with the righteous. David's asking God to get the the blotting instrument out and takes the people's names out. You don't blot it out unless it was written there to begin with. Otherwise, you just made a mess on the page. Revelation 3. Revelation 3, verse 5. This is one way you know the whole book of Revelation is tribulation, not church age. It's a different dispensation. Revelation 3, 5. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Based on what? He that overcometh. That's works. Not my age. My age, I'm in the one who already overcome. Here, I'm counting on him, not anything I do. But there's coming a day, coming an age where it's dependent on what they do. He that overcometh, that one I'll keep in the book. He's proven himself. Different thing altogether. Revelation 22, verse 19. Revelation 22, 19. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book. So he's telling you that obviously is probably going to apply to millennium time period, and for sure in the tribulation time period where that name can be blotted out, and he's going to take them out. Look at it in Isaiah 26. Isaiah 26, verse 18. Now we'll slow down and do a little Bible study. Isaiah 26, verse 18. It says, we have been with child. We've been in pain. We have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have not wrought any deliverance in the earth. Neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. He's disappointed. He's told you what his expectations were. They've been with child, only it wasn't a real child. It was indigestion. It brought forth a wind. What he's likening this to is a woman in pain to give birth. He said, the pain is as though I was having a baby. That tells us where we are time-wise in the prophecy. Revelation 12, verse 1. You can hold your place right from where you just turned from. We'll come back to Isaiah 26. Revelation 12. Revelation 12, 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. Delivered. That's more deliverance than just with the baby. She's in pain. She needs deliverance. Isaiah 26, verse 19. Thy dead men shall live together with my dead body, shall they arise. Okay, we got a resurrection here. Now he's saying, thy dead men, but who's he referring to? The verse right before it was the woman in travail to give birth, or he didn't say it was a woman. There was a man in travail. In Isaiah 26, verse, was that 18? Yes. Yeah. Isaiah is the one in travailing, only he's speaking for the nation. So here, somebody's dead bodies are waiting for someone else. Okay, so we've seen from the cross reference, it's a reference to Revelation 12, the nation giving birth to the man child that's going to rule with a rod of iron. That's Jesus Christ. And so what we're saying is here, Isaiah's dead body is going to be in the same place with those people's dead bodies, and they'll arise at the same time. Isaiah's not expecting an early rise. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Awake and sing, ye that dwell in the dust, all you dead folk. For thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. One day it'll be so. Great white throne judgment, we've seen it. The dead, small and great, bond and free. The earth is going to have to cast them out. The sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell gave up the dead which were in them. It's all going to give up. It's going to puke out all the dead bodies it's been holding. Daniel 11, verse 33. Daniel's the Old Testament book of Revelation. Gives you much the same information, and you'll need Daniel to clear up what's going on in Revelation and back and forth. Daniel 11:33. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by the flame and by captivity and by spoil many days. He told you right there, some of the good guys in the tribulation die by means other than being beheaded, because they've got to stay for 1,000 years in the grave while the millennium is going on. But then they'll come up. The earth is going to cast out her dead. They'll come up with Isaiah. The earth's going to cast out them at great white throne judgment. They'll be judged. Daniel 11, look at verse 35. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them and to purge, and to make them white even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. There's an appointment. It's appointed unto man wants to die, and after this the judgment. Now, everybody gets a judgment. Some people's appointment for the judgment is the great white throne judgment. Some people's appointment is the judgment seat of Christ. Better off to get the judgment seat of Christ. Look at it in Revelation 20. Now I'm going to show you something about this verse. If you pull a verse out of context, you end up with a mess. Verse 5, Revelation 25. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. What's the first resurrection? The dead that don't live till after the 1,000 years? No, that last sentence, this is the first resurrection, is a parenthetical phrase to tell you about verse 1 to verse 4. The ones that rule and reign are considered the first resurrection. Isaiah 26, verse 20. So we've seen the information about somebody in the tribulation is going to be lying dead just like Isaiah, but they can count on it. One day they're coming up. Just do right till then. In the grave, you don't have to worry about doing right. Isaiah 26, verse 20. Now, notice this phrase, come my people. Now, that sounds like something we're listening for. I'm waiting for the day I hear a voice from heaven say, come up hither, and then I'll leave. Not because I choose to, but because I'll be yanked out. He says here, come up my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. What's he talking about here? He's talking about somebody there. The context was the being in pain to be delivered, like the woman in Revelation 12. So in the tribulation, he's saying to somebody, they get a come up hither, come my people. Just wait a little bit until the indignation is overpassed. So that's a mid-tribulation rapture. Somebody's getting out in the tribulation. And they get to wait for a little while, 3.5 years, until the indignation, the wrath of God is finished being poured out. And then they come back. Psalm 27, verse 5. Psalm 27, verse 5. For in the time of trouble, that's tribulation, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. No doubt the true tabernacle. He shall set me upon a rock. In trouble? Yes, somebody is a righteous person in the tribulation gets to leave before the rest of them and does not have to endure through it. They get a rapture out. The mid-tribulation rapture. Look at it in Psalm 57. Psalm 57, verse 1. Be merciful unto me, O God, be merciful unto me, for my soul trusteth in thee. Yea, in the shadow of thy wings will I make my refuge, until these calamities be overpast. Tribulation, great tribulation. He's waiting for it to be overpast. How's he going to be hiding? He says, in the shadow of thy wings. Now, I think it's interesting. He uses wings there. The only thing in heaven that's got wings are seraphim and cherubim. Angels don't have wings. Jesus didn't show up with wings. No angel of the Lord in the Bible ever had wings. There's you know what you do with wings? You fly. Somebody's going to fly away. In the middle of the tribulation, God's calling some out. Zephaniah 2. Zephaniah 2, verse 3. Zephaniah 2, 3. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgments, works. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. Somebody's got a hiding spot. Just like we saw, he says, come on up here, hide in I got a little pavilion over here. You can hide until I finish pouring out all my indignation down here. When that's overpassed, then we can come back down. Luke 21. Luke 21, verse 36. Jesus talking about the end times. Luke 21, 36. Watch ye therefore and pray always, that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. He's telling somebody right there, there's no church age in view at the moment. Nobody knows about a church age. He hadn't died yet. So he's telling somebody, the doctrinal application would be in the tribulation, that if they're worthy, they get to escape all of those events that are going to take over the world. Psalm 83, verse 1. Start in verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy holy ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. That just does not look right. Psalm 83. What's that Psalm 83 1 say? Verse 1 there is, he's praying to get out of something. God's enemies. Now, it's true, the enemies of Israel, because Israel was God's nation. You could go around about it and say they're God's enemies. But in the tribulation, it's going to be literal. Those demonic forces trying to cut off the Israelites' heads are literally demonic forces, the enemy of God. That's where you get the literal fulfillment of it. And he's saying, come get us. Revelation 2, verse 10, Revelation 2:10. He says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Somebody's only getting tribulation for 10 days in the book of 7 years of tribulation. So what's he talking about? I think what he's talking about is the Great Tribulation. They're only going to see 10 days of it. This is going to give you some dates. Revelation 11, verse 12. Two witnesses show up. They're prophesying and preaching for 3.5 years. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Somebody got out. Now, I think that's where the mid-tribulation rapture happens. When Moses and Elijah, the two witnesses, leave, I think that's where this next set is going to leave. Revelation 6, verse 11. Revelation 6:11, of course, in the previous to this, it's been the souls under the altar. Verse 11. And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet a little season, until their fellow servants also, and their brethren that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. Now, I would say that obviously these guys have been down there because they've been killed, probably beheaded, and they're waiting to get out. And there's another group of them that's going to wait too. What happens to Moses and Elijah? Or I keep saying Moses and Elijah, the two witnesses in the tribulation. They get their heads chopped off. Right. That's why these folks under the altar are waiting for that event, and then they'll all get to leave together. Matches with all the other references. Look at it in Daniel 12, verse 1. Daniel 12:1. And at that time, okay, so to understand what he's talking about, we have to know what the time is that he's referring to. Go back to chapter 11, verse 26. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. Obviously, this is the anarchy that's going on in the tribulation. Jeremiah 30, verse 7 says this, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. This is the tribulation. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Daniel 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. I'm not in Daniel's family. He's speaking there of the Jews that were in captivity. Revelation 12:7, we find this event take place. And there was war in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. Okay, so there's the very event they're talking about in Daniel 12. Daniel 12, verse 1, we got 1/3 of the way through the verse. Daniel 12, verse 1. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, to stand for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Now, delivered, not saved. But he could have said saved, because saved is a deliverance. But it's not like what we're talking about when we say we're saved. I'm saved, but I've got to endure this mess down here for a little while. One day when I die or when I'm called out, that's when I'll be delivered. But I'm saved now. Look at it in Matthew 24. This is matching almost identical with Daniel. In Daniel, he said there'll be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. Daniel 24:21. For then shall be great tribulation, last half of the tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no ever shall be. No, nor ever shall be. Romans 11, verse 26. He says, all of them will be delivered that are written in the book. And so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, not savior, deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. That's second advent. Comes back to get him. Daniel 12, verse 2. Obviously, verse 1 has been talking about the tribulation saints that have endured to the end. Daniel 12, verse 2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Now we're talking about resurrection again. Some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. The same event. Some of them are getting good, some of them are getting bad. They're going to be judged. He's judging, and some get rewarded with, hey, you did a good job. Some of them get rewarded with, go to the lake of fire. Won't want to see you ever again. Obviously, this is a reference to the great white throne judgment, the end of the millennium, and it'll be tribulation saints that were not beheaded and were ruling with Christ. It'll be Old Testament saints like Isaiah that come up from the ground. And probably some millennial people that have died will come up at that time too. Daniel 11, verse 33. And they of understanding among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil many days. Daniel 11:35. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Obviously, that's all tribulation time period. He broke it up into kind of two events there. You probably got some that are under the altar there, beheaded, slain with a sword. Maybe a sword cut their head off. But some of them there are not going to be part of that souls under the altar and get to come out and rule and reign with him, because they die by flame, captivity, spoil, other things other than being beheaded. Daniel 12, verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. That's the same class of people as we saw in verse 2. Look at it, Matthew 13, verse 38. He's been giving them a parable, and now he's going to explain the parable. The field is the world, the good seed of the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that stole them is the devil, and the harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. That's that shining forth. In Daniel, he said they'll shine as the stars of the firmament. Here he's saying they're shining forth as the sun in the kingdom. Now they can shine forth as the sun because there won't be any sun. And the light that will be in the eternity and in the millennium will be 7 times brighter than the sun. So you could have a sun out there and it ain't gonna outshine Jesus. Revelation 21. Obviously, the end of the world is our timestamp. Now, here's where you need to know English. You go to any other language or any other way of thinking, and you've messed it all up. He said the end of the world. 99% of every preacher is going to tell you it doesn't mean world. It means age. No, it means world. The end of the world, not the end of the age. There's been many ages that have ended. Daniel's age ended before Jesus ever showed up. Jesus' age ended before Paul showed up. Paul's age is going to end before the Antichrist. I mean, come on, there's bunches of ages, but there's only one world. When's that world end? The end of the millennium. Here's where it ends. Revelation 21, verse 5. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. After you've had an end, then you can get a new beginning. But you don't get the new beginning, the new heaven and the new earth, until the first one is ended. So when he says end of the world, he really means it. Why is it going to be the end of the world? Because he's going to make a new one. If you just make it an age, then he can't make the new one. Let's end this mess. He said the wise will shine forth. Who are these wise folk? Job 11, verse 14. Job 11, verse 14. Job is a picture of the last half of the tribulation. And here's the message. Job 11, 14. If iniquity be in thy hand, who could do something with their hand that would be iniquity? Maybe put a mark on it? Put it far away. What's Jesus say to do with it? Cut it off. Let not wickedness dwell in thy tabernacles. For then shalt thou lift up thy face without spot. What could be on your face that had a spot? Maybe a mark on your forehead? Yea, thou shalt be steadfast and shalt not fear, because thou shalt forget thy misery and remember it as waters that pass away. And thine age shall be clearer than noonday, and thou shalt shine forth. Thou shalt be as the morning, like the stars shining forever, or shining in the firmament. Verse 18. And thou shalt be secure because there is hope. Yea, thou shalt dig about thee, and thou shalt take up thy rest in safety. Also, thou shalt lie down, and none shall make thee afraid. Yea, many shall make suit unto thee. Why? Because Israel will be the head, not the tail. Verse 20. But the eyes of the wicked shall fail. Yes, he's going to burn them all up. And they shall not escape. Obviously, he's not talking about the millennium, because some of them get in the millennium. The devil gets loosed at the end of it. There's some wicked that show up there. The only place that there's no escape for them is after the great white throne judgment. And their hope shall be as the giving up of the ghost. That is, they depart into everlasting lake of fire. Malachi 3:16. Then they that feared the Lord spake often one to another, and the Lord hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him for them that fear the Lord and thought on his name. Isn't that something? God's writing a book up in heaven. He's writing a book about what people are talking about on earth. Careful what comes out of your mouth. He's got a book up there recording it. Yes, 17. And they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. That's when he comes back. Verse 18. Then shall you return and discern between righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. Chapter 4, you get Moses coming, or Elijah coming back before the great and notable day. Verse 5. Micah 4:5, or Malachi 4:5. Behold, I send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. What came right before it? Moses, where is he? 4. Remember ye the law of Moses. There's your 2 witnesses, Moses and Elijah. When they come up? Before the great and notable day of the Lord.